Imagine standing on the grand causeways of a floating city where temples pierce the sky like jagged teeth, and an emperor adorned in feathers and gold extends a welcoming hand to bearded strangers from across the sea, only for that gesture to ignite a firestorm of betrayal, bloodshed, and the utter collapse of an ancient world. What if one moment of misplaced trust could doom an entire empire? That's the harrowing tale I'm bringing you today. The Betrayal of Montezuma by Hernán Cortés and the catastrophic fall of the Aztecs. This isn't just history, it's a nightmare of ambition clashing with tradition, where alliances twist into treachery and millions pay the price in a wave of conquest that erased cultures and scarred generations. We'll dive into the dark mysteries of royal deception, the horrific massacres that followed, and the lingering questions: was Montezuma a victim of fate or his own fatal curiosity? But before we unravel this tragic saga, if you're hooked on these tales of historical horror, hit that subscribe button now for more shocking stories from the past. Stay tuned to uncover the brutal truth behind the fall of an empire. Let me set the scene for you in the early 16th century, a time when Europe was buzzing with tales of new worlds across the Atlantic, fueled by gold lust and the zeal of conquest. The Aztec Empire, or Mexica as they called themselves, dominated central Mexico from their island capital of Tenochtitlan, a marvel of engineering with canals, aqueducts, and pyramids that rivaled anything in the Old World. At its helm was Montezuma II, born around 1466, a warrior priest who ascended to the throne in 1502 after proving his mettle in battles that expanded the empire's reach. His family tree was steeped in divine claims. Aztecs believed their rulers were semi-divine, chosen by gods like Huitzilopochtli, the sun god demanding human sacrifices to keep the world turning. Politically, the empire was a web of tribute-paying city-states, held together by military might and religious terror, but riddled with resentments from subjugated peoples like the Tlaxcalans. Enter Hernán Cortés, a cunning Spanish adventurer born in 1485 in Medellin, Spain. From a minor noble family, he sailed to the New World in 1504, honing his skills in Cuba, before defying orders in 1519 to lead an expedition inland with about 600 men, horses, and cannons, tools of terror unknown to the Americas. The religious context? Spain, fresh from the Reconquista against Muslims, saw this as a holy crusade, blending greed with the cross. As chronicler Bernal Díaz del Castillo described the first sightings of the coast, "We were astonished, like enchanted things from the tale of Amadis." From the start, signs of doom loomed. Omens in Aztec lore, Cascom, are like comets, and weeping idols foreshadowed catastrophe, though modern historians debate their authenticity as post-conquest inventions. One common myth to debunk early: Montezuma didn't immediately hail Cortés as the returning god Quetzalcoatl. That's a later Spanish fabrication to justify the invasion, as noted in accounts like those from the Florentine Codex, compiled by Bernardino de Sahagún from Aztec survivors. Instead, Montezuma sent gifts and envoys to assess these intruders, blending diplomacy with caution. According to ambassador letters preserved in Spanish archives, he viewed them as potential allies or threats, not deities. From birth, Montezuma's life was marked by the empire's brutal rituals, human hearts ripped out on altars, but nothing prepared him for the storm about to break. Now let's trace the rise and the fateful encounters that built to this tragedy. Montezuma's ascent was forged in blood. As a young prince, he led campaigns that subdued rivals, amassing tribute in gold, feathers, and slaves. By 1519, his empire stretched from the Pacific to the Gulf, a powerhouse of 510 million people. But cracks showed, overextension bred enemies, and the constant need for sacrificial victims fueled rebellions. Cortés, meanwhile, burned his ships upon landing, literally, to force his men forward, a bold gamble that screamed ambition. Picture this: armored Spaniards on horseback, thundering like mythical beasts, clashing with coastal tribes. Cortés quickly allied with the Totonacs, oppressed by Aztec taxes, turning native resentments into weapons. As he marched inland, the pivotal battle with the Tlaxcalans unfolded. Fierce warriors who initially repelled the invaders, but after heavy losses, switched sides, providing thousands of troops crucial to the conquest. The turning point came on November 8, 1519, when Cortés entered Tenochtitlan. Bernal Díaz del Castillo vividly recalled the awe. "We saw so many cities and villages built in the water, and that straight, level causeway leading to Mexico. We were astounded." Montezuma greeted them lavishly, housing them in palaces, but it was a cage of gold. Why? Political savvy. He hoped to learn their weaknesses, perhaps bribe them away. But Cortés, sensing opportunity, seized Montezuma as hostage just days later, using a pretext of attacks on Spaniards elsewhere. For months, Montezuma ruled as a puppet, even pledging allegiance to Spain's King Charles V, a move that sowed seeds of betrayal among his people. Tensions simmered. Cortés left to fight a rival Spanish force under Pánfilo de Narváez, leaving Pedro de Alvarado in charge. Alvarado, paranoid, massacred Aztec nobles during the Toxcatl festival. Hundreds slaughtered mid-dance, blood pooling on temple stones. As one Aztec account in the Florentine Codex laments, they struck others in the shoulders, and their arms were torn from their bodies. This sparked revolt. Cortés returned to a besieged city, forcing Montezuma to appeal for calm from a rooftop, a humiliating spectacle that enraged the crowds. These events weren't just clashes, they exposed causes like European diseases, decimating populations, superior weaponry, and divide-and-conquer tactics. The impact fractured alliances, with Tlaxcalans tipping the scales. But it gets worse. Hang on for the climax of this horror. Here we reach the peak of the nightmare, where betrayal boils over into outright carnage. With Tenochtitlan in uproar after the massacre, Montezuma, still captive, stepped onto the palace roof on June 29, 1520, to quell his furious subjects. Dressed in royal regalia, he pleaded for peace, but the crowd, seeing their emperor as a traitor, unleashed a hail of stones and arrows. As Bernal Díaz recounted, they wounded him with 3 stones, one on the head, another on the arm, and another on the leg. Struck fatally in the head, Montezuma lingered in agony, refusing Spanish aid, and died the next day, June 30th. Aztec sources in the Florentine Codex claim the Spaniards stabbed him to death, hiding the body to cover their tracks, a mystery that endures, with some speculating poison or deliberate neglect. Doctors noted his wounds were mortal, but whispers of conspiracy linger. Was it his own people's rage, or Cortés's ruthless pragmatism? The emotional toll? Imagine the emperor's final moments, betrayed by guests he hosted, rejected by subjects he ruled, his world crumbling in screams and smoke, the air thick with fear and the stench of blood as warriors stormed the palace. This sparked La Noche Triste, the Night of Sorrows, on July 1st, when Spaniards fled across the causeways. Trapped by removed bridges, hundreds drowned under the weight of stolen gold, hacked apart by Aztec canoes. Cortés wept under a tree, but regrouped with Tlaxcalan allies. The tragedy deepened. Smallpox, introduced by Narváez's men, ravaged the city, killing up to half the population, including Montezuma's successor, Cuitláhuac. By 1521, Cortés besieged Tenochtitlan, starving it into submission. The final assault saw streets piled with corpses, canals choked with bodies. Cuauhtémoc, the last emperor, surrendered on August 13th, but not before unimaginable suffering. Women and children starving, warriors fighting to the death. This wasn't victory, it was annihilation, with estimates of 100,000 to 240,000 Aztec dead. The horror of erased heritage began here, temples toppled, codices burned, a culture's heart ripped out. The fallout from this betrayal echoes through centuries, reshaping the world. The fall of the Aztecs birthed New Spain, paving the way for colonial empires that exploited the Americas, blending cultures in the mestizo society, but at the cost of indigenous genocide through disease and violence. Up to 90% of native populations wiped out. Montezuma's trust became a cautionary tale against deceptive outsiders, while Cortés's cunning inspired conquerors like Pizarro in Peru. Modern views. In movies like The Road to El Dorado, or books like Graham Hancock's Tales, myths persist. Hollywood often paints Montezuma as a passive fool, ignoring his strategic acumen. But as historian Matthew Restall debunks in When Montezuma Met Cortés, there was no godly surrender. It was a calculated welcome-turned-hostage crisis. Pop culture gets it wrong because it stems from Cortés's self-aggrandizing letters, glossing over native alliances' role. In my opinion, this tragedy highlights human resilience amid horror. The Aztecs' descendants preserve traditions despite erasure. What do you think? Was Montezuma's fate inevitable? Or could diplomacy have changed history? Comment below and let's discuss. In the end, Montezuma's fatal trust in strangers unleashed a torrent of betrayal, massacre, and cultural devastation, reminding us how ambition can shatter worlds. Yet, from these ashes rose lessons in resilience and the enduring spirit of indigenous peoples. Thanks for joining me on this dark journey through history. Keep exploring these tragic tales to understand our world better. If you found this gripping, smash that like button, subscribe for more historical dramas, and share with a friend. Comment your thoughts on Montezuma's biggest mistake below. For deeper dives, check my playlist on colonial conquests.